Let's continue our discussion around inputting formulas within Excel. A continuation from part one, we're going to look at how to copy and move cells, get into relative and absolute cell references, and also how to copy those, and in the end, round our values. Going back to our worksheet that we have been working in all of the various parts of learning Excel, we've already talked about how to input a cell, how to create a complex formula, how to select multiple cells to show the cell range. Now let's get into how to copy and move a cell. If you want to copy or move a cell, all you have to do is make that cell active, which it is shown here that it is active. Actually click, on that cell, hold your mouse down, and then move it around. So you can move it anywhere you want to. Drop it within any cell, and notice, go up to our formula bar. Our average remains the same. So it doesn't matter where we move, that cell is going to always continue to keep whatever contents is in that value. Okay, so let me put that cell back in its original location, and then I'm going to go ahead and just autofill in our average for all of my rows. And notice that once I autofill it in, you see how it's still there and saying, oh, okay, you wanted me to copy that in, and those values are there. Remembering that everything that you have copied or pasted would be accumulated on our clipboard. So just a little bit review over the things that we have discussed. Now let's get into what is a relative and absolute cell reference. These will become very critical when you are putting together some calculation and you want to reference a cell within your spreadsheet, in your worksheet. So for example, here we calculated the increase of 20% for cardiology. So I'm gonna go back in and include the correct formula of calculating that, which is going to be our cardiology value times our 20% increase plus going back to our value to show the actual increase of 20% for the cardiology clinic in first quarter. If I want to copy this over, I'm going to just copy it and say, that's the formula I want. Okay, what has happened here? I'm going to click on the second cell. Remember, I wanted to show 20%. But notice each of these cells going up to the formula, it's going down, into these empty spaces where there is no data. So in actuality, it's not showing me 20% because it is referencing. What it is called is actually doing a relative cell reference where it's just following in sequential order the cell and going from the next cell to the next cell. And because there is no data there, then it's not calculating an actual 20% because actually what is it doing? It's giving me the same value that is already in those cells. So I don't have any 20% increase. So what do I need to do? Just to review, anytime you are just taking a cell and copying it over and it's copying the contents from those cells, that is called a relative cell reference. The important component, if we want to do an absolute cell reference, so I'm going to delete those values, actually go back to the cell where I did include my 20%. And an absolute cell reference, we have to use the dollar sign. The dollar sign locks that cell within your formula. So H5 is our absolute. So I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the H because I want to lock the column and I also want to lock that row. So once I put those dollar signs in, and then I'm going to autofill my cells. Notice how now each of my cells are now maintaining the 2% of what I want to increase to my quarterly value. And it's going to do that for each of the cells. just by having those dollar signs. That is what the absolute is all about. It actually is going to hold those values in place. Without it, remember, it's just going to do a relative cell reference and continue on down these rows. Now let's demonstrate that, okay? So I'm going to actually put in some values, okay? So you all can see that happening. And I'm going to go back and undo this cell. And I'm actually going to take my absolute values out of my formula and go back and go ahead and autofill. Notice how my values are starting to greatly increase. Okay, well, actually, this one stayed the same. Why did it stay the same? Well, because there is no value in that cell. But the other ones, notice the cells that they're grabbing. It goes from here. Now I'm in I5. This one is now selecting J5, okay? And then this one here is selecting K5. So that is your relative cell reference, meaning we're just going to go in order of the sequential order of copying those values. In the case I wanted to keep it absolute, remember, whatever value you want to maintain, you have to use your dollar sign. And your dollar sign will ensure that that is included in each of your formulas. Okay, so if we go back, now we have the 2% that is included in our calculation. Okay, isn't that neat, guys? Okay, so you learned something new about the difference between relative cell references versus an absolute cell reference. Also, understanding why it is important to have your absolute when you are filling and using the autofill and that fill handler to copy your formulas in the different cells. The last thing I want to go through will be rounding. So rounding is something that is important, that sometimes you want to show your values in whole numbers. And all you would have to do is go to your home tab, go to number, and notice that you have the increase or the decrease buttons like right here. So if you click an active cell, and the more you click, the more, okay, numbers. So this here is showing that you're getting too big for your cell and you can't see the data in there. So I'm gonna go back. So anytime you want to round, you can just go all the way around and it's going to automatically round. You don't have to be trying to figure it out for Excel. It does it for you. You also can click your kind of arrow and it's going to open up a dialog box that even gives you more options, that if you want to round in the category of number, select that and it'll say, well, do you want it as a whole number? Do you want to show it with 1 decimal places, 2 decimal places? You can set that, click OK, and it'll round it to wherever you want to show it. Since we are showing a dollar amount, we want to show the dollar and the cents, okay? Because we're talking about money, and so we want this out to be 2 decimal places, okay? So notice how quickly I can do that for all of my values. If you want to do it for an entire area, all you have to do is highlight all of those cells, go up to your home tab, the number option here, click the icon for increase your decimal or decrease it, and it'll show those decimal places past the decimal, however you would want to be able to round. All of this can be done within Excel. So we're kind of wrapping up, but I just want to kind of review again of entering in formulas, and I'm going to complete this worksheet and actually do the max and min. I'm showing you that if we manually put in the max, we could do an equal, start typing in max. Notice how it is going to pop up. So what this formula is calculating is showing, well, what is your maximum amount within your range of data? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and select my range of data of all of my clinics, not my total line, because remember, that's totaling everything. So I don't want that in my calculation. And then I'm going to hit enter. It closes the parentheses, so either you can put the closed parentheses in or you can close it, and it's going to show me my max. I want to do that for all of my quarters, so it's a matter of highlighting that active cell, grabbing my autofill, and dragging it over. Okay, and it does it for me. I have bold. Okay, if I don't want it bold, I can just go up here, click on my font, unbold it. All right. Men. Let's go ahead and do the men a different way. So I'm actually going to go to my formulas tab, insert a function, and I can type in here, just start typing it in. And I'm just going to do MIN. I'm going to go to all. Not financial, but I'm going to go to all. Okay, and then hit go. And notice how it comes up for you. If I click OK, I get this dialog box now that comes up, dialog box that now opens up that says, okay, you want to calculate the minimum number. And the nice thing about this is anytime you scroll over any of these or open a dialog box, it's going to give you the description of what you want to do. Actually determine the cell range that you want. And if that's not the cell range that you want, all you have to do is click this up arrow. It's saying, okay, well, what do you want me to enter in? You could just then go to the cells that you want to include. Similar to if you did it in manually, notice how it's going to take that range. You can just hit enter. It'll go back to the dialog box and give you a total. And just by quickly reviewing your data, you will see that this is your minimum number right here, which is correct. So you'll click OK. So that's another way of how you can put a formula in and use one of the functions that are available. One of those predefined formulas is go to the formula tab and use one of those formulas there. Again, we can just go ahead and copy it over and we're done. This gives you a part 2 of how to insert formulas and use the concept of the absolute value. I hope this is helpful and I hope these tutorials are increasing your knowledge in how to use Excel.